Hello, everybody. CE165 week one. Welcome, welcome. I am Chef Jasper, the Danish crazy guy here on the portal. And to me, on that side, I don't know what it looks like on you guys' computer, is Chef Ryan. I don't think he's less crazy. He just hides it maybe a little bit better, but he's about as nuts as all the rest of us. All right? So, welcome, guys. First, I hope you guys all had a great break. I hope you are well rested. And I want to let you guys know, because a lot of students, and I sort of make light of this, but a lot of students are not are getting into these core classes feeling a little bit, well, what did I sign up for? But I will tell you that even if you're not fond of math, etc., you will succeed these classes perfectly fine, okay? We have templates that does a lot of the per se math for you. What I really, really strongly recommend, of course, is a number means something. It represents something, okay? So when we talk, for example, of food cost, that's how much it costs to create, to cook a plate of food. Obviously, you got to go and buy groceries, right? That amount of money we spend buying groceries, that's food cost. Whatever dollar amount that is, that's math. But what is important is not so much that you guys feel comfortable with the math part of it, but that you understand that food cost is this. So if, let's say, food cost is $5, then $5 is a tool to calculate with, but it's more important that you guys understand that these $5 represent food cost, right? You will see this is going to make more sense once you start making some of the exercises. But I guarantee you that even if you think math is not your favorite subject, you will do just fine in this class. I have every single time I get to the end of CE165, which is this class, I have students that tell me, I did not think I was going to do very well in this class, and then they reach out, they ask questions, they're not shy to reach out, and at the end of the class, they just blow it out the park success. Okay, so I just want you guys to know that if you work hard on it, you will go through this class super duper and succeed perfectly well. Okay, so I know now I'm just talking these words, but you'll see when we get to the end of 165 that they actually were true. That's the guarantee, the ISCOFI guarantee. All right, guys. And please, if you do have questions, send me a message. Okay. If you have a hard time, okay, it is better that we wrestle the problem right away, rather than you waiting too long to reach out to me, and then maybe you feel a little bit frustrated about not the program, but the problem or whatever it is. And all we need to do is just spend 10 minutes and we'll get through it, okay? So questions, reach out to me, okay? Reach out to me, reach out to Chef Ryan. He's our mentor. He's going to assist throughout the program and the class. And and basically every single question except for requesting extensions, they have to go through me as your instructor. Otherwise, just about any other question can go to me, either me or Chef Ryan, or you can even send it to one and CC the other, vice versa. It doesn't matter if you're sending as an email. All right, so reach out. Okay, reach out as soon as you have a question. We'll do everything we can to get back to you ASAP. And you know that on the portal, of course, it says within 24 hours, right? So that's what we'll do, okay? So just reach out. I bite, but Ryan doesn't. And now I'm checking the screen to see who followed. Okay, good. All right, sounds good, guys. So my name is Chef Jasper. My co-driver is Chef Ryan. So, Mr. Ryan, will you introduce yourself to this wonderful class?
Absolutely. And I don't know if you've done it already, Chef, but you have to hit record.
Sorry?
Okay. It's not showing on my screen that you hit record.
It's recording.
Okay. Sorry. I normally have light flashes or whatever, so I wasn't sure.
It's because I haven't made you co-host yet, but I will.
Okay. So, like you said, my name's Chef, and I've seen, I think, all of you in previous classes. They moved me all over the place. They sort of send me where I'm needed. But for anybody who forgot, before I got into the culinary industry, I was in the Navy for about 6 years because I speak Mandarin Chinese, and I was working as a sort of a translator for the U.S. Navy and for the NSA. After I got done with all of that, I've decided I don't really enjoy office work all that much, so I moved into the culinary world. It's a little bit more of an adventure on that side, and I worked as a food critic for about 18 months after I graduated from Escoffier Ground, the culinary program and the pastry program. So I worked as a critic for about 1.5 years, and then in addition to that, I also worked outside of the restaurant business. If you name it, I've probably done it at least once. So I've done like home chefing, I've done home cook classes, I've done catering, I've done front of house, I've done hosting, I've done a lot of stuff. I even managed to sneak a little bit of like brewery work in, just sort of on a volunteer basis. So it was a lot of fun. But all that being said, like you said, any questions that you have, please feel free to send it my way. I'd be more than happy to help you as much as I can.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chef. So, so you guys, well, you don't know me. You know him, but not me. So my name is Chef Jasper. I'm originally from Denmark. I was born in Denmark. But from the age of 13, I grew up in France, in south of France, in a little town called Menton, just like the chin in French. And that's the border town to Italy by the Mediterranean Ocean. 5 kilometers or so from Monaco, as you might have heard of that place, and 20 somewhat miles from Nice. So, and that's where I just spent my New Year's, and it was a great time. And the weather was wonderful. But so that's why I did all my training. So obviously I worked for about 3.5 years in Monaco. So I worked at some of all those fancy places. But the Hôtel de Paris, that is the executive chef there is Alain Ducasse. That was one of the places I worked. I worked at the Yacht Club in Monaco and some other places. And in 1990, I got the opportunity to move to Rome and become the executive chef for the Danish ambassador in Rome. So I spent 1.5 years in Rome, and that was really, really cool, and it obviously helped me with my Italian. And it was a very big experience going from, the French cooking is all about sauces, right? And, well, the problem is that Italians don't use cream in anything but ice cream and desserts. So all my tools, right, butter and cream was taken from me. And all of a sudden, I had to bake bread, make soup, make dessert. Oh, right? So, well, coming from, having to do that, well, it actually opened my eyes that in order to become a complete culinarian, right, well, you got to know how to do all of it, right? You got to know how to fix all 3 meals of the day and anything in between, right? So that was the beginning, and of course, bookkeeping was a very big part of my job. So hint, some of the core classes, interest for that already at that point. And then, of course, as life goes on, you decide that, no, I sure don't want to work for any privates anymore, right? I went back to France and worked there for a little bit. The phone rang and somebody said, you want to be the executive chef for the Danish ambassador in New York City? And yeah, I'm back there in France going, New York City? Hell yeah. So in 92, that's when I moved to the United States, and I've been here every year since, except for 1 year when I went back to Geneva, Switzerland to work. So I've been a chef in catering companies, hotels. I've been a private chef and all in on for 12 years. And I've actually had my own restaurant that I built from the ground up. So I know a little bit both about plumbing, electricity, more than I want to know about drywalling and compliances and permit requirements and all that jazz. I've done it all. So I've actually had my own restaurant for 7 years that I ran here on the Western Slope in Colorado. So, and then I've been an instructor for 2 years. So as Chevron said earlier, I think there's a pretty darn good chance that one of us have probably done it one way or the other. So questions, any project you have, any sort of, wanting to tie your project into some of the things that we talk about, even if you don't necessarily see the link, just explain, ask questions, reach out, and I know that we'll understand what it is that you have or what you're thinking about doing. Okay, so that's one of the main advantages, obviously, of having instructor, mentor, team is that we have that much more knowledge combined. So I've actually been doing all this since I started cooking school in 1984. And I love it as much now as I always have, and it's my pleasure to share both my love for cooking and my love for the financials, so these core classes. So that's the way I'm guilty. But next week, week 2 and week 3 is, in my opinion, the most important weeks you will do from you started Escoffier Online till you finish your externship. Are the 2 next weeks you're going to do, week 2 and 3 of this block, because it's all about costing recipes. Costing recipes means that from when you finish that week 3 assignment, you will or should no longer ever cook anything without making profit. Making profit, guys, is what keeps you working, because you can't send a hamburger out and then stick a dollar bill on the plate, right? It's gotta come into you. It can't cost you money to cook food, right? You gotta make money when you cook food, and that's what we're gonna basically nail down. Is the biggest expense is your food and beverage cost, which is this whole class, okay? And believe it or not, you've all heard the saying, right? 5 out of 7 restaurants don't make it. I can guarantee you that out of the 5 that don't make it, the majority of those places do not calculate their food cost. They basically just put a veil over their heads and they run down the street as fast as they can, and they don't always succeed. So basically, believe it or not, costing your food is one of the most important things you can ever do in your restaurant. And you should never send anything out to a customer, being a restaurant, catering company, bakery, chocolate tree, whatever it is you're making. If you don't know how much it cost you, then you don't know how much to sell it for, and therefore you don't know how much money you're going to make on it. Okay? Does that make sense? Right? You got to know how much stuff costs, right? I bet you've all had this thought in your mind before, right? I can go to the store and spend $20, or I can go out and have dinner for $20, right? Right? You've all had that thought, right? I do it no, I don't do it every day, but very often, right? You go to the convenience store or the supermarket, and all of a sudden you're $60 in the hole, and you're going to go home and cook food for 4 people. You just gotta go, what happened, right? Well, that's what you don't want to do that in a restaurant, right? You know exactly down to the penny how much stuff costs. Why do you need to know how much stuff costs? I want to hear your opinions. Anybody, something, help. Why do you need to know your food cost?
So if you're making money, you have to know how much it costs and how much you're going to charge to make money. Otherwise, you're going to lose money.
You answered 2 questions absolutely perfectly. First of all, you said you got to know how much it costs to make it. And secondly, you said you got to know how much to charge. Brilliant, right? If we talk about a 30% food cost, that means that if I sell something for $10, I can spend $3 in food to make it, right? That's 30% food cost out of a $10, right? That leaves me with what? $7, right? That's called contribution margin, right? That $7 pays labor, rent, insurance, and profit, right, is in that, right? So you got to know that exactly. That knowing how much to charge is exact. That's the best of all the answers I can get, right? What would be another reason to know? I cheat a little bit. You heard contribution margin, right? That's the money that's left after its sales price minus the food cost is contribution margin. Let's say, does anybody else have a good idea? Doesn't have to be good, actually, just an idea. No? Okay. Let's say I have 2 items I sell for $10, right? I have Mike's cheeseburger, right? That has a $7 contribution margin and a $3 in food cost, right? And then I have Chef Ryan. He has a chicken sandwich that costs, he sells it for $10, but he only spends 25% in food cost. That means his contribution is $7.50. Mike has $7 in contribution margin. Chef Ryan has $7.50. What sandwich do I prefer to sell? The $7.50 contribution margin. So if I'm going to tell my wait staff, hey guys, today, if I go out and tell them, push the burger, push the burger, push the burger, that means every time they sell a burger, they don't sell a chicken sandwich. Does that make sense? That means every time they don't sell a chicken sandwich, I don't lose, but I don't make another 50 cents. So therefore, what I should tell my wait staff is, sell a chicken sandwich, sell chicken sandwich, sell chicken sandwich, right? Because every time I sell a chicken sandwich, I make 50%. I make 50 cents more money than if I sell a burger. That makes sense? So if a restaurant does not know its food cost, they don't know what to sell. So they can't tell the waiter, for us to be successful, sell this because we make more money. As simple as that. And you know what? If we are talking about 50 cents, you say, that might not be very much. But what if we sell 30 sandwiches every day, right? Then it's $15 a day. It's $105 a week, right? It's $5,500 a year. What could you do with $5,000? You know what? I know for a fact that $5,000 will pay any of you guys' cell phones and the lease on your car. Does that make sense? If you look at it that way, it might be worth figuring out what the food cost on my menu is and tell my waiters to sell chicken sandwiches if by doing that, my cell phone and my car is paid for the whole entire year. Does that make sense? If you think of it, 50 cents ain't much, well, 50 cents add up. Does that make sense? So that's why it is so crucially important. And if we think of it, that is just about a sandwich. What when it comes down to drinks, wine by the glass, desserts, appetizers, you name it, if you know every single thing on there and you know which one to promote every single time, we're talking about maybe $100 in profit difference. That's $52,000 a year. That makes sense? No, sorry, that's $35,200 a year. That's still money, isn't it? That's a year's salary for most people, if not more. Does that make sense? And all that for sitting down and maybe spending 10 hours costing out your menu. That's a hell of a good return on your time invested in it. That makes sense? So that's what we're going to do, guys. This is why, I hope you can feel my enthusiasm, but this is why, and Chef Ryan just heard me say this an hour ago, this is why I'm actually, I love cooking. Don't get me wrong, and I've never done anything for 32 years but this, believe me, okay? And then built a restaurant in between. But this is what I do. But I'm more excited about finding a way to make another $100 out of the same amount of effort every day. That makes me inside more excited than cooking, because I've been cooking for so long, right? Is that progress of moving forward. Does that make sense? So guys, I can guarantee you, and we can have these conversations throughout, right? But you'll see by little changes here and there, little tweaks there and there, you'll see it's amazing how much money you can find. How much money that otherwise would run right through your fingers. Okay? And I can tell you, when I started my own restaurant, I didn't know all this. I learned it the hard way. I wish I'd known, but so right now I'm really I get excited when I can show you guys what it is that makes me excited, sharing it. Okay? So sorry for all that. I hope your ears are not hurting too bad. That was a long introduction, huh? All right, so since this is week one, we're doing a little bit of sort of like housekeeping, right? Throughout the, and it's the same thing, we'll do it week one of every block, okay? So, you know, if you look at the syllabus, that's on the top of the class page, right? In there, you'll see there's a course overview that really, that clearly states that the expectations are that you spend about 30 hours or during the next 6 weeks between lecture, class, live sessions if you can, watching archived, right, if you can't be on live, research, and the assignment, all right? So keep in mind that this does not mean that you need to be on the class portal for 30 hours in order to succeed the class. It basically, that includes research, you know, typing your assignments, et cetera, But I do recommend, however, though, that per week you really should put about 5 hours on the side to do this. In order to do more than just getting a grade, but getting a great grade and really understand what it is that you've gone through during the assignments and the classes, and do extra research on the side, that's what I recommend that you do, okay? And that's what the syllabus sort of is set up as. And that's the same thing for every 6-week class, right? It's 5 hours a week. And then as a reminder that the discussion forums are in week 2 and 3. They are due this Saturday at 11:59, no different than previous classes you've been through. And the responses are then due the following Tuesday at 11:59. All assignments are due 11:59 on Tuesdays, except for obviously week 6, where the assignment is due that Sunday. So it's a short week for the week 6, right? And the reason why they're due Sunday is that in order to see who has qualified and has the grades to go on to the next block, we have to have all the grades in by that Tuesday night. So otherwise, as you know, classes start on Wednesday. So that's why the week 6 is a short week. It's basically so that grades can be entered into the portal. Everybody can see that everybody has the amount of the grades that they need to have in order to start the next block. All right. Now, this is super duper important, what I'm going to say now. So listen up, guys. All right. I need a wider screen. This is like, I just came back from France, right? They speak with their hands all the time. So now I'm like, can't sit still. Okay. The assignments are graded in the following, or the weight of the grades are in the following way, okay? Discussion forums are 40% of the overall grade, okay? What that means is passing grade is 60. If you do not participate in discussion forums, you need to have 100 in every single assignment every way through, all right? So therefore, participating in discussion forums is really truthfully a must. And I cannot emphasize on it enough, okay? Participate in discussion forums, not only for, well, grades is obviously a really good reason to do it, but remember that it's through the discussion forums that other students and myself can actually get to understand what it is, your concept, what it is that you're actually doing, okay? What it is that it gives us sort of a third dimension to your project, okay? So, and if you don't participate in discussion forums, of course, that means that there's less discussions to reply to. So if students are not active on discussion forums, then the replies get sort of redundant because there's not enough people to reply to, okay? So please remember discussion forums are super important, all right? Now, quizzes and assignments are 20% and 40% for the assignments throughout the class, right? And you know that you need a 60% to graduate to go to the next class, okay? On the class page, right, that is as well referred to as the portal, right? So that's when you log on to Scafia Online, right? You go up and you click your class, CE165 2017-1, right? That's the class that we're currently in. So that's referred to as a class page, or sometimes I refer to it as the portal, okay? It's the step into the class, if you want, right? Sorry. So in there, I have Chef Jasper's online policies. It is basically it's just a Google slideshow that tells you what you can expect from me and what I expect from you guys, okay? So it's sort of a little, you know, sort of perimeter. So I expect you guys to watch it. It's not mandatory, but it's kind of nice to know what the expectations are, right? That's on there. So, and as I said, it's a little bit, you know, this house cleaning thing, small print that we just need to get out of the way, so it's done, okay? And then as well, there is a link to a document that's called "How Do You Know You Are Learning?" That document, I really, really encourage you guys to every week when you're doing your assignment, before you submit it, you should read those five questions out to yourself, unless you are brighter than me and you can remember them. But just kind of go through them, right? Basically, these 5 questions, they will basically tell you if you're prepared and if you have gained and understood the material that was presented to you, okay? So it's sort of a self-check. If you can't answer the 5 questions, well, then you can reach out to me, or it's time to go back and do some more research, okay? And then last but not least, too, here, you know, we track attendance, right, on the portals, right? So as I said, the 30 hours that are required, we don't require you guys to have 30 hours of attendance in the class, but we do track attendance. If you come to me with a low grade and you don't understand what's going on, I'm going to go in and double check your attendance and see, well, if you have spent half an hour in class and we're there at the end of week 3, then maybe the reason you're not succeeding is because, well, you didn't go to school, right? Does that make sense? So we do track and that sort of thing. And so just so you know that attendance, when it is counted on the portal, will only count in the current week. So let's say something happened in week 1 and you didn't get the assignments done in week 1. You know, life happens, right? Good things, bad things happen. And all of a sudden now we're in week 3, and now finally you find a little extra time. You say, well, now I want to go back and do week 1. Well, that time you spend in week 1 will not count. Okay, it's not going to count on that clock. It only counts the current week that we're in. Okay, so if you jump a little bit back and forth because, you know, something happened, whatever, and we worked out some kind of a deal, then just know that attendance does not count. And that if you do not log into the program, that means into the class, in the current week for 14 days, you will be withdrawn from the program. I don't know if you've been told this before, but 14 days That's a Colorado state if you don't go to school for 14 days, you get dropped out of school. It's the state government. It's a state rule, and since the Iscoffy Online is registered in Boulder, we run under Colorado law. Okay, so basically, let's say something really cool happened in your life. You got something really cool. You're gonna go on vacation for 2 weeks. You just won a vacation on the Wheel of Fortune, whatever, right? And you're gonna go to Belize and you don't have internet connection. Then we need to find something out, right? You need to, during some time there, you need to go to an internet cafe, log in during the current week and say hi on a discussion forum, something, right? Then you're fine. But just so you know, it's very, very important. Okay, we have students that log in the beginning and then they don't do much for a certain period of time, and then when they come back, they wonder why they got dropped, because 2 weeks go by fast, right? That makes sense, So just know, if anything, if you have big plans, get in touch with us prior, and then we're going to make a battle plan. But it's a state law. It's not the school. You have to log in within 14 days. Okay, so it goes pretty quick. I just want to say it, and especially if you haven't heard it before, then now you have. Okay, so what so what you'll learn over the next 6 weeks. So I personally, I can't tell you this enough. I'm very, very excited about core classes. Okay, I teach 3 of them. So I'm passionate about this thing, and especially because I've had my own restaurant, so I've had to apply all of these things. Okay, but just so you know, the projects that you have, I will very often refer to things as a restaurant, brick and mortar restaurant. And the main reason I do that as a, per se, default is because every single concept is within that umbrella, if you want. Okay? So, for example, if one of you guys has a food truck, okay, I'm not telling you guys to make a restaurant, by no means. Just know that if you have a food truck, I will still, because it's a learning objective, teach you about the front of the house, okay? Because it's something that maybe one day you'll use it. Maybe you won't. But going through the program, it is a learning objective, okay? So I don't want you guys to feel like your concept is excluded from the class, because I have a tendency to maybe more talk about restaurants. But the main reason we do that too is because the majority of students are going to end up in that environment, okay? So please be aware, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings with anybody's projects. As I said, I've done a lot of them myself in one way or the other. The learning objectives is one thing. Adapting your concept to the learning objectives is a separate thing that we'll do together, okay? So if you have a specific question, say, Chef, I'm doing this, so this doesn't pertain to me, what's the deal? I'm going to say, this is a learning objective. This is how I think it could tie into your project. And if it doesn't tie into your project, then I'll say, maybe you'll use it one day. Does that make sense? But I think I'm pretty good at tying things sort of that doesn't directly look like they're linked together. That makes sense? And maybe not in this class, but maybe it'll be the next class. You'll see. Okay? So just know that there is still a learning objective. That's like the curriculum, right? That's the stuff that the school has promised you guys that we're going to teach you. Then what you do with it is a different deal. But I really encourage you guys to believe that everything has an importance at some point. All right? So just so you know, just like if I talk about how we're going to build a restaurant, for example, you're going to say, well, I have a food truck, I don't care. Well, guess what? There's a lot of food trucks that become very successful, and all of a sudden, well, the food truck isn't big enough, and they end up having a food truck and a restaurant, right? So then at least you've heard about some of the things, so you can be part of conversations and that sort of stuff, okay? So basically, this week and this assignment, or this week is actually online quizzes, right? That's the assignment for the week. So you don't submit anything to me. It's just an online quiz, okay? But basically it is all about correctly perform culinary math computations. This week is about understanding the verbiage and what it means. And then next week and the following week, we're actually going to take recipes, cost them out, and make sure we're making money, okay? So this week's assignment is more about understanding the verbiage and how things work. And then next week, we're going to take menu items, ingredients, quantities of them, and then make a recipe, okay? Compare actual operation results with budgeted operation results. Use sales history and standardized recipes to determine the amount of foods produced to products to buy in anticipation of forecasted sales. That's basically making a shopping list, right? Okay. Yolanda, I'm gonna mute you for a second, okay? All right. So, and by all means, guys, if I mute you, it's just because I get some audio feedback. Just unmute yourself if you want to participate in a conversation at any time, okay? It's just so we don't have too much feedback. We're going to talk about purchasing, receiving, and storing food products in a cost-efficient manner. We're going to compute the cost of food sold and food cost percentages, okay? Identify processes for purchasing, receiving, and storing beverage products, just like food. It's not really that big of a difference. Compute the actual cost of purchasing a menu item and compare that cost against the cost you should have achieved. Okay? And we're going to do all these things here through exercises. Okay? Identify the identify the variables to be considered when establishing menu prices. Identify how to reduce labor-related costs. We're going to talk about that. You guys have all seen the pre-cut salmon, for example, like IQF, right? Individually quick frozen products and that sort of thing, right? You know, packages of fish frozen, already packaged cut, right? That's obviously the food. The food might cost a little bit more, but I don't need to have the skilled labor that know how to fillet a fish. So sometimes it's worth doing it, okay? Identify the factors that affect employee productivity, right? Have people work hard while they're working. Develop labor standards and employee schedules used in a food service operation. Categorize other expenses in terms of being fixed, variable, or mixed. Can you guys give me an example of a fixed expense in a restaurant, in a food truck, in a bakery? What is an expense that will be the same every single month?
Rent.
Rent, that's correct. What is one that would be variable, that would change?
Ingredients.
Sorry?
Ingredients.
Food is the expense of food is variable. The food cost of food should be consistent, right? But yes, that is true. That is another one. And what could be a mixed? What could be fixed and variable?
Could be labor or utilities.
Yep, utilities, right? Absolutely. Labor fixed would be salary employees. Variable would be hourly employees. Okay. Differentiate controllable from non-controllable other expenses. We're going to talk about that. Analyze sales and expenses using the profit and loss statement. Do you guys know what is a profit and loss statement? What is the purpose of a profit and loss statement, you think? Have you guys heard of something called a break-even point? Okay, so a break-even point is when the amount of money that comes in, right, the income is exactly the same as the expenses. That's break-even point, okay? The reason why break-even point is so super important is that there is no profit till you hit break-even point, right? Because you got to cover all your expenses before you make profit. Does that make sense? So therefore, the break-even point is when life starts to be sweet. Before break-even point, you don't sleep because you're losing money. You got to find a way, right? From break-even point, life becomes a lot sweeter, and that's where you know that profit starts to exist. So if I tell you guys we're making 10% profit, we don't make 10% profit on the money that is below the break-even point, because all the money that comes in goes to cover. Once you hit break-even point, then the next $100, you might make $10 in profit. That makes sense? So that's why the profit and loss statement is a very, very important document in accounting. Okay? The cool thing is, let's say you have a lot of partners in your business, right? And you receive a salary, and then once you hit profit, then you can negotiate how much of the profit you get as part of your bonus, right? Well, if you don't know if the restaurant is going to make it or not, you might ask for a bigger salary and then they get less money when you hit the break-even point, right? Because salary is guaranteed. From the break-even point profit, you only make it if you make it. That makes sense? So it's important, the profit and loss statement is important for many, many reasons. All right? So during the 6 weeks, basically, so this week is basics of culinary math. That's what we're going to talk about this week, right? That's the exercises. Next week is about inventory management. Week 3 is about pricing your menu items. And that is good because that's when we finish our recipe costing exercises. That's the assignment. Week 4 is managing a budget and doing some forecasting. Week 5 is all about labor cost. And then week 6 is putting it all together. All right? So if you really think about it, in this class, in these next 6 weeks, we are going to talk about true groups of expenses in a business. and if you haven't heard this before, there is something we use in the industry that's the 30-30-30-10 rule, which is, in general, 30% for food cost, 30% for labor cost, 30% for other expenses, and the last 10% hopefully is profit. Okay? That's the 30-30-30-10 rule. In this block, in CE165, food and beverage cost, we are going to talk about the first group, which is the food and beverage, and then the second group, which is labor. We're already going to talk about that. Okay? So that's what this block is about, actually, is understanding food cost and talking about the two groups out of the 3 in expenses, categories of expenses, when we talk about a restaurant. Any questions so far, guys? Sounds good so far? Just trust me on this, okay? Go through the exercises and you will see things will come clear. All right? They really will. So, so basically on the exercises, and I'm going to go through these a little bit fast, but these are this week's exercises, okay? Remember, they're open book, all right? So the 2 first exercises, okay, you can do these open book, go back and forth, and you can take this exercise as many times as you want, all right? So we're going to talk about the portions per purchase, all right? So portions per purchase equals purchase size divided by the amount of used in one portion. So let's say I buy 12 eggs, okay? So the purchase amount is 12 eggs. I use 3 eggs to make an omelet, okay? So I take my 12 eggs and I divide them by the 3 eggs, and that means I can make 4 omelets out of this purchase. Okay? Tells me how much I can make out of this. That's simple enough, right? Let's say I buy a gallon of milk, right? How many cups in a gallon of milk, right? I buy a quart of milk, right? My recipe asks for a cup of milk, right? So I know that when I buy 1 quart of milk, there's 4 cups in a quart, so I can make 4 portions out of my quart of milk. Easy enough, right? Then contribution margins. I mentioned this one already, right? But this is super important. If I sell something for $10, it costs me $3 to make it, right? Food cost is $3. $10 minus 3 is 7. Contribution margin is 7. All right? Contribution margin is the sales price minus the cost that it cost me to make my recipe. That's contribution margin. Okay? Contribution margin pays everything but the food in my restaurant. So it'll cover labor, other expenses, and your profit. That gets paid out of your contribution margin. Okay? And then food cost in a restaurant, I'm not talking about per course, I'm talking about the whole restaurant, is the beginning inventory plus my purchases minus my ending inventory. So what I mean by that is, let's say on Monday, I have $1,000 worth of food in my restaurant. I buy $500 worth of food, okay? So now technically I have $1,500 worth of food, right? I had 1,000, I add 500 to it. When the week is over, right, I count everything I got in my fridge, and let's say I had $800 worth of food now, right? I started with 1,000, I bought 500, and I got 800 left. What would my food cost be? 1,500 minus 800, right, is 700. So my food cost in dollar is $700. Does that make sense? All right. And there are exercises in this, obviously, to understand all this. All right. But I can't give the results on the exercise. Right. So the week 1 lesson. So the basics of culinary math when it comes to food cost and other calculations. Food cost percentage. Now we're talking about percentage, okay? Is food cost divided by food sales. All right? Here comes a little hint for you guys that are not too fond of math. You always divide the small number by the big number. So if I say food cost divided by food sales, right? That would be my hamburger, right? I spend $3 in food cost, right? I sell it for $10, so it's 3 divided by 10 equals 30%. All right? Remember, you always take the small number and divide it by the big number. Okay? If you do that, then your percentages will turn out right. Okay? Labor cost is the same thing. Labor cost divided by food sales or revenue, right? And other cost percentages is always the same thing. Other cost divided by the food sales. Remember, food sales is the same thing as revenue, right? Any expenses have to be divided by the revenue. Does that make sense? And if you've done these 3 numbers right and you add them all up, you should be at 90%, not more. That leaves 10%. And what's that 10%? That's profit, right? That goes in your pocket. That's why you want to be an entrepreneur. That makes sense? But always remember this when you're doing these calculations here, okay? It's a small number divided by the big number percentage. then you're always going to be all right. Okay? So food cost, 30%, labor cost, 30%, other expenses, 30%. If you keep these three in check every single time, every single day, every single week, every single month in your business, you will make 10% profit once you hit your break-even point. Okay? If you keep those three in check and you don't meet your break-even point, there's only one thing you have to do: increase sales. That makes sense? That means you don't have to fix a problem, because you don't have a problem other than you're just not having enough sale. This might not sound, well, not having enough sales is kind of a big problem. I agree with you that it's a big problem, but having that and then having to fix labor costs, food costs, etc., that's an almost impossible task. Does that make sense? So if you can follow your budget, that's what you project, 30% there, then the only thing you have to think about after that is make more sales. Make more sales. Find a way to sell more, and you will be successful. Does that make sense? That's the way to do it, right? Okay. So and then it doesn't matter if you're, let's say you have a bakery. Okay. Everything is in line. You're just making enough sales. What do you have to do? You need to call all the restaurants in the neighborhood, and you need to be delivering bread to all the restaurants. Does that make sense? Because now you're increasing your sales, right? That's what you need to do, right? If you have a restaurant and you're not making enough sales, what do you need to do? You need to advertise. You need to do, like Taco Tuesday. Doesn't have to be tacos on Tuesday, but you need to get, people in the door so they spend. You're going to give them something at cost, but overall, they're going to spend more, right? They're going to buy more drinks. They're going to buy more appetizers. You just need to increase your sales. You need to do something, but that is not as big of a problem as having to fix. I spend too much in labor, too much in food cost. My food cost is all out the roof. Off the roof. I don't know, what am I going to do? You can't fix everything, right? So if you have a structure that works, then you only fix one thing. If you have the sales, but your food cost is not good, well, then you only have to work on fixing your food cost. Does that make sense? That is manageable. You can't fix everything. You can make everything better, but you can't fix everything that's broken, right? That takes time. Time is something you don't really have, because time is money. That makes sense? So so that's why the 30-30-30-10 rule is very, very important, okay? And a lot of restaurants make a 25-25-40 rule. Whatever works for you is fine. You just need to be able to stick to it, okay? So then we have as well what's called a check average, okay? That will be for a meal period, for lunch, for example. Let's say we did $500 in sales for lunch, okay? We had 10 tables, so we're going to take 500 divided by the 10 tables. That is a $50 per table average. You can do the same thing per person. You can do the same thing for dinner, right? So you're going to have a check average for one person. You can have a check average for lunch period, for dinner period. It's a very, very useful tool. It is how you can make small changes. And when you make changes, you have to be able to observe the outcome of a change, right? And these things allow you to do that. These are tools that you can check, okay? So, and then we had what's called seat turnover. That is the total customers in a period by the number of seats. So if I have a restaurant that sits 50 people, and I do, let's say, 150 covers for lunch, that means my seat turnover is 3, right? 150 covers divided by the 50 equals 3, right? So that's the seat turnover, okay? Now, the seat turnovers are very important because they change from day to day, and that's one of the exercises that we're going to go through. If you did a seat turnover let's say for a restaurant for 7 days, and you realize that one of the days you're really, really not doing many turnovers, well, if you were to choose a day to be closed, then that would be the day that you take off, because the expenses are high, but you're not making much income. Then maybe you'd be better off taking a day off and let you and your staff rest that day. Or maybe that is the day where you're going to do your Taco Tuesday on a Thursday, whatever that might be, right? If you see that those numbers are not good that day, then you're not going to advertise. If on Fridays your restaurant is running at 3 turns for lunch and 4 turns for dinner, you're not going to advertise, come to my restaurant and eat dinner on Fridays, because you're going to be standing waiting for a table for half an hour. You're going to try to promote the day where you're not busy. That's when you want people to come in, right? That's part of why we want to know these numbers. It makes us more informed, and we can make really good decisions with the knowledge that we have, okay? And then there is converting recipes. This is something that we're going to work on a lot next week and week 3, because we are not only are we going to convert between units such as weight and volume, right? For example, a tablespoon, right, or a cup is a volume measurement. So it doesn't really work very well if I buy flour in pounds, but I'm scaling my flour in a volume. That doesn't work, because I don't buy flour in volume, right? I buy it in weight. So I really need to, in order to use a cup as a measurement for flour, I need to know how much does it weigh, a cup of flour weigh in ounces and not in volume, because I buy the flour in volume, in weight, sorry. Does that make sense? So therefore, you got to be careful when you go from one unit to another, because a cup of water weighs 8 ounces, but we all know that a cup of flour does not weigh 8 ounces, right? Even though we buy flour per pound, right? Or 50-pound bags, or 5-pound, 10-pound, whatever they are, right? So if we buy them in one unit, we should put them in a recipe in the unit in which we buy the product. Otherwise, we can't get a price on it. If we can't get a price on it, then guess what? Then we don't know how much to sell it for, right? That's what Mike said in the beginning, right? So keep that in mind, okay? And then, of course, we are going to, so then, of course, there is the converting between the different units of measure, right? Teaspoon, tablespoons, etc., etc. On the portal, I put that, say hello to my little friend, Mr. Gallon, right? That was a little reference to Scarface, but nevertheless, I really strongly recommend that you guys look at that conversion table. It's probably something you're going to use forever, right? If you don't know them yet. But remember, 1 gallon is 4 quarts, right? And then after that, there's 2 pints in a quart, right? And there are 2 cups in a pint, right? There are 8 ounces in a cup. There's 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, and there's 2 tablespoons in an ounce, right? Those things I really recommend. If you don't know them already by heart, have tattoo them on your children's forehead or something. I don't know, whatever works for you guys, but something you look at, something you don't mind looking at. So you choose whatever that is, okay? But that's something that's good to know. So I really recommend that you guys look at that Mr. Gallon thing there, right? Okay, and there is a link on there that goes to sort of some more elaborate stuff too. And if you're ever otherwise sort of not sure about that stuff, there are some conversions on online that you can pull out. There's a little pull down tab. You can put everything in you want there. And I this is an online school, so of course we recommend that you guys do everything you need to use online resources, right? So if you're not sure, then just use those, okay? They work really well. Okay, then there is as well about rounding up and rounding down numbers, right? So you always look at the digit after the number that you're interested in. And remember that if it is less than 5, then you don't do anything, and if it's 5 and above, then you round up. Okay, just like fractions, a third equals 0.33333. Just like a quarter, obviously, right? 1/4 is 0.25, etc., etc. So those things are in there too. So we're going to talk a lot about those throughout, and that's something that you will always be working with. And remember that a lot of the recipes, anybody here doing baking, I know that some of you guys use grams in your assignments. So that's when I really truthfully recommend that you guys go online and use those conversions, kilos to pound, and put those in there, because it just makes it easier. Okay, so because since on the recipes, right, the baking recipes you use right now in kilos, right, with Chef Lanut, remember you buy flour per pound, right? You don't buy it by the kilo. So if I tell you how much does a kilo of flour weigh, how are you going to find the price since you buy it in pound? Does that make sense? So you have to or transform the per pound price for flour in kilo, or you're going to take your recipe and transform it from kilos to pounds. Now, I think it's easier to use the conversion online and say 1 kilo equals 2.1 pounds, whatever it is. And then when you do your recipe, you put in flour in the weight column 2.1, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense? Because you know the per pound price of flour. You don't know the per kilo price of flour. All right? So you have to convert it to one or the other. If you were in Europe, I'd say, well, you buy flour by the kilo. You don't have to worry about it. But since we're in America and you do prices per pound, you need to transform your quantities in your recipes back to pound. All right? If you guys are good with Excel spreadsheets, you can make yourself some pretty easy spreadsheets too. And if you don't and you still would like a spreadsheet, then we can do one together as well. Okay, but you got to reach out to me. That sound good? We'll just make a little cheat sheet. You put in kilo here, it comes out in pounds there, and pounds here, and comes out in kilos there. All right? So, but you got to reach out to me because I forget. Okay, but we can make a pretty easy sheet. Okay? Sounds good? Well, if you guys in the baking department or anybody that otherwise is not but is interested, we could schedule a little Zoom session and we'll do the template so you guys can see how we make it. So if you're interested in doing that. But you have to reach out to me. Please, please, please. Okay?
Thank you, yes.
You bet. I love doing those things because they're very, very useful. They're things you're always going to be using. So it's better that you know how to make it than just here you are, go ahead. Does that make sense? Okay. So Mr. Gallen, we talked about him. He's a good friend of mine, okay? He doesn't bite. So revenue, right? Revenue minus expenses, right? Revenue, all the money coming in, minus all the bills, whatever is left is profit. That makes sense? Sorry. All right, so there are no discussion forums this week, okay? Because discussion forums are in week 2 and 3. Week 2 is going to be organization, and week 3 is going to be to convert your restaurant. Basically, that exercise is in week 3 will be, if you have a food truck, how do you make it into a restaurant, a catering company? If you have a restaurant, how would you make it into a food truck or a catering company? One or the other, right? How would you basically transfer? The reason I like that exercise is, at some point, if you have a restaurant, somebody calls you up and say, hey, I'm getting married. Would you cater my wedding? Well, now you're not a restaurant anymore, are you? You're catering. So therefore, it's good to do it. Just like if you have a food truck, and let's say your food truck is really successful, one day something comes up and somebody says, hey, I've been seeing your food truck, you're making a ton of money. I have a restaurant. how about we transfer into a restaurant? Well, it's a good idea to have some ideas about knowing more than one concept. All right. So remember that discussion forums, they're week 2 and 3. The initial posts are due Saturdays. All right. And the final responses are due Tuesday. All right. So this week's assignment basically are online. These are those automatic things there. If you quizzes or online quizzes, if you have any questions in there that you are not sure about, there is an option to flag a question. All right. If you flag the question, then it pops out and tells me that you had a concern about a question or a question about it. Then I can look at that question and tell you why the answer is what it is. Sort of maybe do a second opinion on the response to that question, okay? So if you have any issues with them, just flag them because that's easier. Some of the questions get shoveled around. So if you say, hey, on question 3, I had a problem, if I go on, that question 3 can now be question 10 because they move them around sometimes. So just flag them, okay? And then I'll go in there and I'll look at them. Remember that the 2 first exercises are open book, right? But the 3rd one is an assignment. So make sure that you do the exercises properly first. So what I recommend is that you obviously do the assignment, the exercises, book open. You can write down your answers, etc., and then maybe take it again, book closed, and see how you do then. And then you should be ready to do the exercise, the assignment, to do the assignment. Okay, sounds good. And the exercises you can do them as many times as you want. All right, just to try them out. Any questions, comments, concerns, happy smiles? Good. All right, so what I like to do, and this is going to take us just a minute here, every end of live session, I like to touch on week 2 sort of assignment, what we're doing. The main reason I do this is if you work in a kitchen anywhere, the best time to do a to-do list for tomorrow is before leaving the kitchen. Because before you leave the kitchen, you know what you ran out of, you know what you need for tomorrow. Whereas if you leave the kitchen, you have a life, I hope, you sleep some, and you're not thinking about work at some point, and now you come to work next morning, and now you go, oh, what was it that I forgot, right? It takes you 5 minutes before you leave at night, and it saves you at least 15 minutes next day. So I like to sort of do the same thing just as a habit type of thing. So next week's discussion forum is organization, okay? So basically it's going to ask, the whole thing is how do you stay organized? Now, in my opinion, there's a second side to that question, and that is in today's technology, right, there is shareability of information, right? So if you think of it simply as you have a business and you are going to make a schedule for your employees, okay? If you write that schedule down on a piece of paper and stick it on the window with a piece of tape, unless people are there, they don't know. Does that make sense? Whereas if you use, and I'm going to use Google because I really like Google and we use Google on the Escoffier Online, and I actually use it for just about anything, so I endorse it. But if I do now my scheduling on a Google spreadsheet and I share, all my employees can log on and see it. As soon as that schedule is done, right, they can no longer say, I didn't see the changes. I don't know, right? Because all they got to do is take their phone, their tablets, their computer, whatever it is, go on there and they can check what the schedule is like. Does that make sense? So if you have an information you're sharing, writing it down in a calendar or notebook or something like this might not be a good solution. If, however, you are running a one-man show, one-man show, okay, however you organize it is nobody else's business. Does that make sense? So if you like to use a planner and the information in that planner, you don't tend to share it, then you don't have to use Google Calendar, whatever. Does that make sense? But if you have one or more employees, then you don't want to be texting, emailing 20 different people to let them know what their work schedule is like. Does that make sense? You want to have it available, and then you can send them a message, a mass message to everybody and say, check, new calendars up, check your schedule. And then you're done. Does that make sense? So just know that there are many, many ways of doing this, okay? So if you have previous experience in a restaurant, great. Then you might have certain things that you already do. If you do not, but at home you're very organized, you make to-do lists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You put reminders in your phone. All that is very, very good. You just need to see how can you apply that to a restaurant. Does that make sense? So that's going to be week 2 discussion forum, okay? It's not very complicated. You're basically just going to dig deep down and see, how do I stay organized? And you can very well be very disorganized at home and then be very organized at work. It's 2 completely different things. I know people that actually work on making restaurants efficient and organized, and then they can't freaking find a spoon in their kitchen then when they come home. So that's 2 completely different things, okay? So if you have things that work for you at home, your family, how you shop, to-do list, et cetera, there's a way to transform that and be a benefit in your business. If you don't, well, then you're going to have to figure out, how do I or how would I stay organized in my business, okay? So remember, so in week 2, that assignment, that discussion forum will be due then Saturday of next week, right? Not coming the following week. And then the week 2 assignment is going to be standardized recipes. There's a template to download. What we need on that template is the name of the recipe, who made it, hopefully you, and then ingredients, list of ingredients. Then there are 3 columns that are weight, volume, and count. So basically think of this as, weight is whatever you buy per pound. Volume is anything you can pour, milk, oil, vanilla extract. And then count can be avocados, cucumbers, eggs, that sort of thing, okay? So just think of it that way, all right? And that's going to be it for that. Okay, guys? Feeling good? All right. So, as I said, math is not a big deal, guys. If you have any questions, don't get aggravated, okay? Don't be upset about it. Ask questions. I guarantee you, I can make you understand these costing recipes. Just reach out if you have any issues whatsoever, okay? We can do phone conversations. We can do a Zoom session, share screen. We can do them together. Whatever you guys need to be successful, okay? All right, guys. See you next week. Thank you very much for all your hard work, okay? Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.